Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Squat Cobbler. I'm Dr. Mike at Official Pagan on everything. See, I remembered it this time. And joining me, as always,
I'm just so proud of you. Way to go. Congratulations. Hi everybody, I'm Kelly at KELLYTHUL on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. So,
are you on TikTok,
I'm
sir?
I am on TikTok. I don't
Are you really?
I have the app.
Okay.
I have an account. I have no intention of ever producing content for it, but it's a fascinating world.
As soon as you produce any content for that, that's when I jump on TikTok.
Okay.
Now I'm gonna do even better because you're already proud of me. I'm also gonna throw in everybody watching this should like and subscribe so you can stay up to date on our latest videos.
That's right.
Because the Bog Panda YouTube channel is regularly putting content out there.
That's right. Soon on TikTok, as a matter of fact.
Adding TikTok to the portfolio.
That's right. Perhaps not, but the YouTube channel would be
Kelly
a great
Dance
place.
Challenge.
Oh, there you. We can do these split screen things too, or yeah, it'd be gold. It would be gold. Maybe not, but yes, please do like and subscribe, and you'll be getting the retro arcade stuff every Friday. You'll get the Nurture and Support Recommendation podcast, usually weekly. Every once in a while, we hit a stumble, but that's typically weekly from there. Hopefully, Pun of the Day starts to be more of a daily thing. That'll be out there. Our friend Jeans is going to start up another show talking about the Umbrella Academy. So lots of different content out there. So give it a like and subscribe, please.
Well, the reason we're here today, though, is to talk pinball. Now, we're going to talk about the virtual pinball cabinets, but Kelly, you owned a regular, are we going to call it analog pinball cabinet?
OG pinball, sure.
OG pinball table.
I
Now, what was
did.
that experience like?
So it was awesome for the first 3 months before the machine began to disintegrate in different ways. Because this was like a 1968 pinball machine. It's called Bullfight Bally. And so very not a transistor to be found, I assume. In the whole thing, lots of copper wire, lots of analog switches, and all of that good stuff. And it was a great game. It was really fun. Didn't have all the kind of cool stuff that the later edition pinball machines had, but it was just kind of an old school pinball machine, really fun. It had a disc in the center that, as you'd play, you'd advance it so that it was the bonus. And depending on as you continue to advance this wheel and you hit a certain target, you would get whatever it had advanced to. So it might be 60 points or 90 points or extra ball or those types of things or a special. And that was pretty cool. But we left the machine on overnight, and the little disc was kind of it was a plastic disc, and the lights underneath it. I guess maybe whoever replaced the lights put it in a slightly higher wattage than they should have, and it melted and kind of warped the disc, and so that part became a little bit kludgy to do. And then one of the switch that you would hit to kind of reset the machine to play a new game started sticking, and we eventually had to kind of run a piece of string around that switch, have it come out the front. You could just kind of pull it, and as soon as you got it to click over the first time, the machine played great. The flipper started to get progressively weaker, but it was, for all intents and purposes, the kind of pinball machine you'd go into an arcade and find, and it had that feel, and it was nice, it was fun, the artwork was cool, but it was many challenges with it mechanically.
Yeah, and that's I remember when I was a kid, a friend of my dad's had a few pinball tables, and I loved going over his house and going to his basement and playing on the pinball tables. But I do remember even from talking to him that it was a lot of maintenance involved in those, and that it was a constant financial drain because he had to constantly buy parts, have people come out and maintenance different things, electricians work on it and things like that. So I'm not prepared for that sort of investment. And that's where the virtual pinball tables really appeal to me.
Yeah, they've come a long way. I mean, this has been kind of a genre for a while. of pinball through a computer screen. So you can go to Steam, and there's tons of games. We've talked about Pinball Arcade before. So there's a way you can play pinball, and the experience is pretty cool. You know, it's not completely reminiscent of pinball, but it has a lot of the aspects of it that's pretty cool. And so those have been out there for a while. But then things started brewing here recently, over the past several years, where it's like, well, you know, if we lay one monitor down flat, kind of like a pinball bed, and then you can have another monitor up on the top to kind of be like your top scoreboard, and you're all of a sudden, from a form factor standpoint, getting a little bit closer to what you're used to for pinball.
Right. And there have been a few home digital pinball tables that have popped up in the last couple of years, but the big, I would say, announcements that we've had recently, particularly from the leaders of the home arcade market, would be, of course, AtGames and Arcade One Up. Both announced their forays into pinball in a much more advanced way than what we've seen for these home digital pinball tables, with actual, triggered feedback and things like that, and adjustable tilt and things like that, so you can physically move the ball around by pushing the machine like you can on an actual table, things like that. It looks great. And I'm an Arcade One Up guy. They're fitting, their style fits in my wheelhouse of building a full arcade in my house. So as much as I do understand the space factor for most people of getting one multicade that can have hundreds of games on it, I want a room filled with arcade machines. That's the what I'm going for, the aesthetic I'm going for, and I like that they're dedicated to that. In fact, one of the things they just recently announced is a photo booth for your house, just to get even closer to the actual going to the arcade experience in your house. And they have talked in interviews about some sort of a claw machine in the future as well. So getting the full arcade experience in there. And I don't know if I'm going to go with the photo booth, but I like knowing that it's out there, that that's an option for me in putting this arcade together. That was really a big part of my choosing to go with Arcade One Up over AtGames, which are really, and again, there's so many companies doing these things now, but clearly top of the pile as far as those things go. But now that the specs are coming out for the AtGames, is it Legends Pinball? Is that the official title?
Yes, it is.
The Legends Pinball table. First off, they're very comparable as far as the feedback and tilt functions and all. But AtGames, expectedly, I would say, comes with more tables. You can also add more tables to it, which is something the Arcade One Up branded machines won't let you do. There's going to be, I believe they said 10 tables on each one, but they're uh, specific to a particular series, a Star Wars table, a Marvel table, things like that. So again, sticking with the form factor, I don't mind having a couple of tables if it gets me closer to my whole arcade in my house. But there was other things with this that just look great. It's a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier, and I do like that, especially because if younger people in the house are going to be, banging it around and things like that, I want it to be a little bigger, a little sturdier, and I want that for myself too. I want a little bit, like you said, getting closer to the form factor of a real pinball table, the old school pinball tables. um I don't necessarily love the games that were announced for it, the tables that it's coming with, which are 22 packed
Yep.
into it. However, what I do love is that you can add more tables, not just by purchasing them through AtGames, but the bring your own game function that's on the Legends arcade unit. And you can bring games over from Steam, so Pinball Arcade, things like that, which has tables that I absolutely love. And even if it doesn't work with the feedback and tilt functions, being able to play those on, at least in terms of visual form factor, an actual pinball table is going to be amazing. And having a full size monitor at the top as well, because some of those games, especially on like Pinball Arcade, some of my favorites are the Dracula pinball. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if you ever played that. That heavily uses the interface of the LED screen that the pinball table had, which is going to look great on that full size monitor. So that's got me leaning more towards the AtGames Legends now, which of course does free up more space for other arcade units still
There you
too,
go.
because now I can only get one table.
Yeah, and it's, we've talked because we've got kind of the arcade one up multi cabinet environment going, and I've got the Legends kind of open architecture where it's kind of all in one from there. And pros and cons to both, depending on what form factor you want and all that stuff. But what I've been super impressed with AtGames on is the bring your own game capability, is the openness of the architecture to say, you want to plug this in, you want to do that, you can go ahead and kind of connect it in, and all of a sudden that particular unit that can do a ton of stuff, and you can kind of flip through a ton of capabilities. And the idea of playing some of those beautiful games that are in Pinball Arcade on an actual, very similar to an actual pinball machine form factor is super exciting. Doesn't come cheap. They've been pretty consistent on their $5.99 price for it, so it's not an inexpensive purchase. It's actually
No, which is it's only slightly more than Arcade One Up though, which is coming in at 550.
yeah, and one of the big differences there, and it's what you were talking about being a little bit bigger, a little bit sturdier. I believe the arcade one up is a 24-inch wide, so 2 foot wide base, where the AtGames is 32 inches, which is
Yes.
darn close, 90%, which is, they say actual size 90%, which is not actual size, but close to actual size.
Pretty close to an actual
Pretty
yeah.
darn close, 90%, rounding up actual size. And so you're going to, because the narrower that play field gets, the more it starts to feel like a toy versus an arcade, in my opinion.
Yeah, and there are cheaper digital pinball games out there that, to me, veer much more towards the toy market. There's a few newer competitors that have been announced that are trying to get out before Christmas to compete with them. I don't like their selection of tables. The specs aren't nearly anywhere near AtGames or Arcade One Up for what they're coming with. The only downside that I'm seeing, because one of the things that really disappointed me about the Arcade One Up announcement, the price is exactly where I thought it would be. They, from the beginning, said it would be between $500 and $600. They split it right down the middle at 550. That's 100% what I was anticipating. I already knew it was going to be 10 tables. There are people who are like, why can't we add more? But again, this is the Arcade One Up business model, so I don't know why anybody's surprised by that. What does surprise me though is they are not Wi-Fi enabled, which the newer Arcade One Up systems are all Wi-Fi enabled. So why aren't these, so that we can have leaderboards and things like that? I don't mind having to buy 2 of these over the course of a couple of years to get all the tables I want. Why aren't they Wi-Fi enabled though? That doesn't make sense to me. So this is going to have leaderboards. It's going to have the bring your own game feature, and the fact that it's going to be compatible with Pinball Arcade is a huge selling factor to me, because I don't really care that much about the tables that it's coming with, other than maybe Haunted House. But being able to add my Pinball Arcade tables to it, that's a different thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a head scratcher because obviously Arcade One Up has cracked the nut. They figured out, they have a Wi-Fi option on the newer cabinets, so it's not like this is technology they're not ready to deliver upon. They're putting product out
Right.
with it, and it kind of plays into, I think AtGames is really sharp here, and they're doing some interesting things to kind of build this kind of community around the environment with the power of leaderboards, to kind of say, I'm going to be playing this thing all night long because I want to show up on that leaderboard. Or you could do co-op play. So it sounds like you're very likely going to get one. I'll probably be in a prolonged negotiation on whether I get one or not.
I'm definitely going to be getting one. I don't know how soon. I mean, they're not released yet. It's next
Right.
month. They're coming out. Probably going to get the Neo Geo cabinet first, though,
Yeah.
so that there will be 4 cabinets in here. Then add the pinball table. So probably sometime early next year for it. Which it sounds like there's going to be a rush on it for the holiday season
Yeah.
anyway. So I'm probably better off waiting and not getting involved in all that.
Yeah, there's, if I understand the information correctly, and there's a lot of really good videos out there, kind of going really in the depth, feature by feature, and all of this type of stuff. If that's what you want to get there, Mike and I mostly was going to talk about pros and cons of going this way or that way with them, what we like in terms of what we see there. But what they've introduced with the Legends Ultimate Arcade is two-way. You can do chat. You can do group chat. So you can hook up a Bluetooth headphone and mic, and you can kind of co-play some games
I
and
wasn't
talk to
even
your
thinking.
buddy.
Are you saying that when we both have these, we
We
could
could
be co-playing pinball
we could
together?
be co-playing pinball together. Yes. So and you would think that could, being a person that needs compelling arguments to provide, the fact that I could roll out, "Are you aware I'm going to be able to play pinball with Mike now?" Game over, right? You would think.
Right. Done.
I don't know. I don't see it having the resonance that it feels like it should, but we'll we'll see.
It's worth a shot. Now there is, I will say two things though that Arcade One Up's doing that I like better than Legends. It's really not going to sway me. I think I'm sold on the Legends, to be honest with you. There are two things though. The Legends is going to be bigger and heavier, which I like. Part of that though is it's going to have an actual glass top
Mm-hmm.
with little people running around. That creates more issues potentially. Also, shipping. I know when I had my Star Wars, the LED backlights were not working on that. My Mortal Kombat cabinet has a scuff on the one side, which you can't see because it's up against another cabinet, but still, I know it's there. It bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
um, I could see going through five of these, and especially if there's a shortage of them, and just getting broken glass panels in the shipments. That's something that's already running through my head as a
Yeah.
downside to this. And even if it's not, it's just something that can get easily broken potentially. Whereas the Arcade One Up has a thick acrylic cover over it, so it'll be just as clear but durable,
Yep.
and not have to worry about those shipping issues or bumping into it, breaking the glass kind of issues. Also, I do not like the cabinet artwork.
Yeah. I mean, those are from what I understand, those are from the actual side panel art of some of the games that are featured, or they're,
Yeah, it's
uh,
it's the built-in tables. It's
yeah,
it's a collage of their panel art.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, they learned a lesson because with the 1.1 Legends Ultimate Arcade, mine came. So I have a 1.0. Mine came with the side artwork, which is not great, but it's okay. It's not great. It was already printed, or applied to my side panels. I assembled the thing and I was done. With the 1.1, it actually came rolled up in a tube, and you had to apply the vinyl onto the side to put the panel art on. So
Hmm.
this one here, they come applied, so you're not going to have to mess with that.
Okay.
But in a way, to your point, there is I was not I was not impressed in terms of uh, it almost cheapened it to me a little bit. I mean, I know they're trying to get across multi arcade. Hey, look, you can play lots of things, but it would have been to me so much cooler to have somewhat of a more old school cabinet design to it, and which would be kind of a much simpler graphic on there to just really ring out pinball machine. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of I'm not a big fan of probably the best art they've got on it's up on the top because I think that's where Haunted House is at.
Correct. Yeah. The
And
the
that
bezel around it's haunted house. Yeah.
that's not so bad. But the other stuff's like, I mean, I'm not a big fan either.
Yeah. That's one of the downsides for me, especially because Arcade One Up. One of the things I like aesthetically about them is they all of their cabinets have the classic arcade cabinet look to them, with the original artwork recreated, and then on the kickboards the list of games that are on that particular cabinet. So it has a very straightforward classic arcade kind of look to it. So this multi artwork mess they have going on does not fit with my aesthetic of this. Again, it's not enough to switch me back to Arcade One Up. Arcade One Up would really have to come up with leaderboards and some other stuff that obviously they're not going to, because their cabinets are going to be shipping shortly. So obviously not going to happen, at least in this round of cabinets. So it's not going to sway me, but I do wish to have better artwork. I'm sure there's going to be, I know the modding world for these things is huge. So I'm sure there's going to be third party aftermarket stuff you can add to it. I don't like doing all that though, because I would screw it up for one. And also I like to building the arcade. Part of it to me is keeping it that straightforward, traditional kind of look to it.
Yeah, and that had, and apparently, I mean, I don't know if this was the same guy or not, but we had a comment recently on, it was actually, I think I told you it was on Reddit, but it was actually on YouTube. That someone was less than impressed with your Star Wars sit down,
I saw that. Yeah.
and it was like, that looks like ass, is what what the comment was. There was a comparable comment with, they put out some high res pictures of the AtGames one, and I'm assuming it's the same guy, or it's a thing now that looks like ass. And so I wouldn't quite put it there. I do think, like I said, I'm not a big fan of the side of it. The one thing that, and I get it. I mean, you want to kind of, you don't want to introduce a bunch of dead space, introduce a bunch of dead space, but visually it would look so much sturdier and so much better. I think they got the legs down great. Those are pinball machine legs. They look right. The body itself could be a little bit deeper to be a little bit more reminiscent. But the biggest thing for me is that the back panel, which you're used to having, it being about 3 times as wide as what it is there, and they don't need the space because there's just a monitor in there.
Right.
But had they just extended that with just dead air, and I know that's a little more material and a little more weight when you ship it, and all that kind of stuff like that, but I think it would have made it even easier to buy into. Oh, this is a full blown arcade, because it just, that top little monitor section is narrow, and just visually, I would have loved to have seen that be a little bit wider. That might be a mod you could do, is kind of do a few things to beef up the width. It's all fake, just to kind of give it the right visual, but. But yeah, it looks good feature wise. It looks really strong. Haptic feedback, so you're going to get that, a little bit of a sense of what you would with a pinball machine. There, you can either physically nudge it. It'll have an altimeter kind of deal, so that you can do the physical nudge if you want to, or you can do the button-based nudge as well. There's 2 buttons on the side for all of these, and so I don't know. It's pretty interesting. I originally didn't imagine I was going to get like super excited. I love pinball. I thought the idea of a virtual pinball machine would be great, but I was just like, I don't know. I've really never seen something I was completely sold on. But as I start to see pictures of this and the capabilities that are there, and of course the fact that possibly someday in the future you and I are playing pinball together, what
Right.
more could a person ask for?
Absolutely. And I understand for the person who didn't like the Star Wars artwork and everything. That is the actual artwork from the Star Wars arcade cabinet though. They just recreated the original artwork. So but I understand that, and that's what my issue is, I guess, with the Legends thing. I almost wish they had just chosen one of the tables and gone with that. It really pales in comparison to the artwork for the arcade one-up cabinets, which for the Marvel cabinet, you have Marvel characters all over it. Star Wars, you have the original trilogy, and the most on one side, the most recent trilogy on the other side, things like that. So it definitely doesn't hold a candle to those. That's not enough to sway me. I do just wish it looked different.
Yeah,
And there's a part of me that's already like, it's gonna come broken with the glass
yeah.
panel.
Well, that might be the cheapest and smartest mod for you to do, is buy a piece of acrylic
Yeah.
and just swap it out.
Just
Preventive
right away.
maintenance. Just
Yeah.
say, I don't need to mess with this. There have been a couple other cabinets, and I can't come up with the names right now, that did incorporate glass. So this isn't the very first one to do it. There have been 1 or 2 others that have shipped. So I think they can ship these kind of things and not come broken. But boy, when I watched the 1.1 kind of feedback that I was seeing when the Legends 1.1 came out and people were getting shipping issues, there were a number of times where there were boards broken, and panels broken, or those types of things. And so now you got this big sheet of glass. That's not good.
Yeah.
It is going to be apparently .com only to begin with in terms of ordering, so you're not going to be able to find these at stores to try and head off that shipping thing there. Pre-orders in November. They said available before Christmas, so if you're pre-ordering in November, boy, it's going to be a quick turnaround. But they're running into the same problem everybody is I think a bunch of people have product sitting in China that they sure like to get to the United States to sell for the Christmas season, and there's only so much that's going to make it. But yeah, so I have a negotiation process to work through there. So I'm not going to be doing it immediately. But boy, I am growing increasingly interested because it does look like it'd be a really fun addition.
Yeah, this isn't going to be the next edition. It's probably going to be Neo Geo. But this will probably be the route that I'm going with pinball. And now that I know we can play together, that's completely selling me.
There you go. Yeah, because you'd have to. I mean, we could do that on the Legends. You just have to get yourself a Legends, and then we
At
could.
games, if you're listening.
You know, you got some problems you could solve here, and and we're not asking it for free. Here, we'll give you a gift. Change your artwork. Pick. You can't do all 22 games anyway. Pick one cool game, put it on one side. Pick another cool game, put it on the other side. Leave the haunted house up on the front. That's just fine. Your cabinet's going to look 100 times better. There, free.
Yeah,
So,
that it just looks like a mess. There's just so much going on there. But I am probably after Neo Geo. I'm only gonna get cabinets if something I really really love pops up. The plan is after Neo Geo goes in, because I have like the core games that I grew up playing now. Get a pinball table, and I want to get some sort of a shooting game. Arcade One Up came out with or is coming out with the big Buck Hunter shooting cabinet. So that's not necessary. I did like that game. It's not my favorite of the shooting games. So I'm hoping they announce that one soon. It is one that they've teased, they've talked about as a future game that they would like to do. So I'm hoping they announce that soon so I can get my shooting cabinet in. And I feel like I'll have a pretty well-rounded arcade.
yep. Maybe you need an air hockey table.
Air hockey table would be nice. So Ice Games, who they do the games for like Dave and Buster's and things like that, they are getting into the home market with just slightly scaled down versions of their games. By when they say scaled down, their basketball net is like a foot shorter, kind of thing. Like it's minor tweaks.
Yep.
But everybody got excited when they announced they were getting into the home market. Then they did a live stream interview the other week, talking about the price points, and the price points are only slightly less than buying the full size versions. So I feel like I'm not knocking it. I'm sure the quality of them is going to be great, but I feel like that's not the way to go for the home market. I feel like they're missing the point a little bit. I believe their air hockey table was 3,000 or 3,500 or something like that for the home market.
Yep. And, yeah, that's a tough sell.
Yeah,
That's a tough sell. But you may want to save your money up. I mean, don't want to hate to, it's probably a spoiler here, but it's not been announced yet. But I have a high degree of confidence. AtGames will be releasing, yes, virtual claw machine with 4 panels on the thing, so you can watch the claw come down from every angle and get virtual teddy bears. So you may want to wait for that.
I don't know if they do come out with a claw machine, not a virtual one, but like if Arcade One Up can figure out the actual build it at home claw machine, I might get that.
That would seem to be. I mean, that would seem to be buying an erector set. You should be able to kind of build the main mechanism there.
From the interview that I saw, they said that was actually like one of the most requested things that they get from people who are going for that full arcade kind of feel. That's something that they're missing. And they said that they've looked into it, but it's really just about figuring out how to scale down the number of pieces that it would need, that they could ship it easily to keep the cost down, and that you could put together yourself, because the Arcade One Up cabinets you do assemble yourself. So they said right now it's just an issue of figuring out how to dumb it down a little bit to make that happen. Okay. But I don't know. I could see that making an interesting Christmas. Like, hey, your presents, claw machine.
Maybe you've got presents, maybe you don't.
Yeah. It's really up to you whether or not you got presents.
So this is an important lesson. There's no free lunch, and there's no free presents either. You gotta get there, and that could be a kind of a cool thing. So, yep. So hopefully, life gets a lot easier for Mike and I at games. There's just a couple shipments you need to make, and and we'll have a lot more to talk about. But it is, I'm excited. It looks like a really cool product. I think they are listening because I think although it's probably pretty far down the production route already, but I think they learned the whole, hey, apply your own decals on the sides, not a good way to go. The open architecture that they've been running through the Legends Ultimate carries forward here. You'll only need one arcade net ID and password, so basically you'll have access to all of your stuff on both cabinets potentially. So it could be pretty interesting.
Yeah, it looks really interesting. I'm definitely interested in it. It's more than likely going to be the way that I'm going for the arcade cabinet. I haven't ruled out the photo booth though.
That'll be so. That's so that'll we'll have to deliver kind of the old Polaroid delivery mechanism of photos there too.
Yeah, you load it with Polaroid film.
Yeah, makes good sense. Yeah, that'll be. Then all you're going to need to do is wait for Arcade One Up or AtGames to come up with a 19-year-old guy with a pencil thin mustache and bad hair to walk around the room on a regular basis, and tell the kids to stop smoking. So that'll be good, and it'll be photorealistic. So excellent.
Sold. Well, I have figured out finally how I am going to decorate the arcade, though, or at least one of the walls. It's going to be animation cells on one of the walls.
Animation cells from.
From animated movies and TV shows.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was able to get my hands on some animation cells, and that's going to cover one of the walls.
Yeah.
So now I just need like dim neon lights that flicker and
yeah, couple black lights, a few posters, too would be good. Yeah, that would be a thing. Excellent. Well, folks, hope you've enjoyed it. Like I said, check some of this stuff out because there's many cool things coming. It's really neat. It's nice to have a cabinet war going on between these folks trying to create more appealing options for us as consumers to play with. And I think AtGames has done a pretty good job here. So it's going to be interesting to see what the response is.
absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. And obviously, AtGames or Arcade One Up, if you guys are watching, you can help us along here. You help us, we help you.
Right.
I mean, just to give you an example, we've talked about Guns N' Roses a few times on this show. They have a new pinball machine that's coming out. So
right.
obviously, we are directly responsible for that.
Yeah, do the math. All we ask is you do the math. And on that note, before they figure out we're our bluff, although it's true about Guns N' Roses, sort of, yeah, kind of a little tiny. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.